Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Brexit talks are in a very disturbing state of deadlock. That's according to the EU's chief negotiator. Michel Barnier said today no decisive progress been made on the divorce bill Britain is expected to pay. And he warned that means that no talks can be held on future trade. From Brussels, here's our Europe editor, James Mates.
How these talks could use a superhero to get them moving again. Sadly, the only one available today, a children's illustrator from Sheffield calling herself an anti-Brexit supergirl, was quickly hustled out by security before the two not-so-super negotiators could tell the waiting press that not much had changed. In fact, worse than that, the EU's Michel Barnier used two D words, deadlocked and disturbing, to describe where they are on talks about money.
So on this question, we've reached a state of deadlock, which is very disturbing for thousands of project promoters in Europe, and it's disturbing also for taxpayers.
Which leaves David Davis and Theresa May at next week's European summit having to ask the rest of the EU to let Monsieur Barnier off the leash, to give him the go-ahead to talk about trade and the future.
The next step in this process is the European Council in October, and clearly we would like them to give Michel the means to broaden the negotiation. It's up to them whether they do it. I think it's in the interests of Europe and the United Kingdom that they do.
But what leverage does Britain have? Not much beyond the threat to walk away with no deal, a threat most politicians on the continent reject on the grounds that it will be a massive act of self-harm.
Threatening to shoot yourself in your own foot, which is also bad for your neighbors who want you to do well and who would also suffer as a result, I don't think that's a terribly good idea.
A view shared by Michel Barnier.
No deal will be a very bad deal. To be clear, on our side, we will be ready to face any eventualities and all the eventualities.
It was not all doom and gloom. They're still holding out the prospect of decisive progress in the next 2 months. But 6 months after Article 50 was triggered, there is not much so far to show for it.
And James is joining us now live from Brussels. Now, James, the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson is calling for more urgency from the EU. He says it's time, is a quote here, to get some tiger in their tank. So where is all of this heading?
Well, it's heading for 1 week today. Theresa May will be here trying to persuade her fellow leaders to show some flexibility. She's likely to face a pretty hard line, particularly from France and Germany, on the money. She promised in Florence Britain would fulfill its financial commitments, but UK negotiators here still won't say what they consider to have been commitments. And hanging over all that is this threat to walk away with no deal. Now, the British government's done its own research about what that would mean for the UK economy. Interestingly, they won't tell us what the results of that research were, but other governments will have done their own assessments. Today, a major Dutch institution produced figures saying that, yes, a no-deal Brexit would cost the EU economy 2% of GDP, but the UK economy 18% of GDP over a decade or so. Now, that's just one set of figures, but if other governments are getting similar assessments, it's not completely surprising they don't believe a British government would put its people through that level of economic pain.
OK, James Mates in Brussels, thank you.